Okay, so like imagine AI that can like predict heat waves, before they even start, or like get food aid to exactly where it's needed most.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sci-fi movie stuff, right?
It is pretty wild how that stuff is going from like theory to reality now, though.
Totally.
Impacting how cities work, how we deal with crises,
Right.
and even like how we experience humor,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
believe it or not.
So we've got this really cool mix of sources for this deep dive.
Cool.
We've got like breaking news stories about some huge shakeups in the AI world.
Okay.
Some research papers that really dig into the economic and social impacts. And even some stuff about AI trying to do stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy, huh?
It's a pretty wild mix.
It's interesting how these like seemingly totally random areas actually connect to like paint a bigger picture, you know?
Exactly.
It all ties together.
And whether you're in like a busy city or out in the suburbs,
Yeah.
these AI advancements are like sending out ripples that are going to be felt everywhere. So let's start with something that totally like sent shockwaves through the tech world.
Yeah.
DeepSeek.
Oh, yeah, that Chinese startup.
Yeah. It's like they came out of nowhere.
They kind of did.
And their AI model R1 is causing a ton of buzz.
Yeah.
Not just because it seems to be like as good as ChatGPT,
Uh-huh.
but because of how they built it.
Yeah, how'd they do that?
They were able to train this like super powerful model
Yeah.
for way cheaper than anyone else, like only $5.6 million.
Wow.
And using like less advanced AI chips.
Huh.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they definitely caused a stir like ripples through the tech world.
Yeah, for sure.
Even caused like a dip in U.S. tech stocks.
I know. And the fact that they made their models open source is like blowing everyone's mind.
Right, making everyone nervous.
Yeah, because it opens the door for like anyone to collaborate and potentially compete.
Exactly.
So the reactions from like the big tech CEOs have been pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, like what are they saying?
You've got Sundar Pichai from Google like downplaying the whole thing, saying that their Gemini model can match DeepSeek's efficiency.
So he's saying like no big deal.
Yeah, basically. And then there's Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, who seems kind of more like intrigued by it all.
Okay.
Even admitting that they're still trying to like figure out how DeepSeek did it.
Wow. So even he doesn't know.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then, of course, there's Elon Musk.
Oh, boy. What does he have to say?
Well, he's always like the wild card, right?
He is.
He's expressing some like skepticism about it,
Makes sense.
which could be a big deal for his company, XAI.
For sure.
But one quote that really stuck with me was from like this AI expert.
Oh, yeah. What'd they say?
They said that DeepSeek's breakthrough is lowering the cost of generative AI from a user perspective.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
I know it is.
So, like, what does that even mean for the big picture?
Well, I mean, think about it. If AI becomes more affordable,
Yeah.
it could be accessible to like way more people and organizations,
Yeah.
not just those huge tech companies with billions of dollars.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
It really could be a game changer.
Totally a game changer.
Wow.
But okay, let's switch gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about like the economic side of things.
Okay.
Because AI is often hailed as like the next big economic revolution, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
But the reality might be like a lot more complicated than that.
You think so?
Well, there's this MIT paper
Uh-huh.
that says that AI's impact on GDP over the next 10 years
Okay.
is going to be like way lower than everyone's predicting.
Really? How low are we talking?
Like only around 1%.
1%. That's like nothing.
I know it's surprising, right?
It is surprising.
But the economist who wrote the paper, Duran Asamoglu,
Okay.
he makes a really good point.
What's that?
He says that only a tiny percentage of tasks,
Okay.
like only 5%,
5%. Wow.
can actually be done by AI in a way that makes money.
That makes sense.
And then on top of that, you have to think about all the costs that companies have to pay to actually implement these AI systems.
Oh, right. Like the adjustment costs.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as simple as like plugging in an AI and watching the money roll in.
No, not at all.
It's way more complicated.
And the paper also points out that most of the investment in AI right now is coming from these big companies.
Right.
But a lot of the tasks that AI could help with are in like small and medium businesses.
Oh, so there's like a mismatch there.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of the whole DeepSeek thing.
Oh, so.
Well, like if AI becomes cheaper,
Right.
could smaller companies finally use it?
Yeah, maybe.
And could that like totally change the economic landscape?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Right.
And it all ties back to this idea that AI needs to be able to handle like really tough tasks.
Hard tasks.
Yeah, that's the word.
Okay.
If it's going to have a huge impact on the economy.
What do you mean by hard tasks, though?
Like, think about an electrician.
Okay.
Imagine an AI that could help an electrician figure out a really complicated electrical problem, like in real time,
Yeah.
giving them information and solutions.
Yeah.
That's a hard task because it needs like deep understanding and problem solving.
Oh, I see.
And those are the kinds of AI applications that could actually change the economy.
Interesting.
But what we're seeing in the Anthropic Economic Index is kind of different.
Oh, how so?
They found that AI is being used a lot in like software development and writing,
Mm-hmm.
but almost not at all in jobs that are like physical labor,
Oh, wow.
which kind of fits with what Asimoglu was saying.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out how to use AI for a wider range of jobs and industries.
Right.
But okay, let's switch gears again.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the economics,
Yeah.
but AI is doing way more than just like making money.
Totally. There's this whole other side where it's being used for good.
Oh yeah, like
Like the IBM Sustainability Accelerator.
what's that?
It's doing some amazing work focusing on AI projects to build like more resilient cities.
Resilient cities, that's
Yeah.
super important, especially with how fast cities are growing.
I know, right?
It actually directly addresses the UN Sustainable Development Goal 11,
Which is
making cities safer and more sustainable,
okay.
And they've picked 5 projects to work on.
Cool. Like what?
So one is working with C40 cities to make an AI that helps cities analyze like the risks from extreme heat.
Oh, wow. That's important.
Yeah, especially with climate change and all.
Yeah.
And then they're working with the UN World Food Program
Okay.
to improve their GeoTart tool.
What's that?
It uses AI to deliver food aid in emergencies,
Oh, wow.
especially after like droughts and floods.
That's amazing.
And then there's a project with Mass General Brigham
Okay.
using AI to predict super local heat events.
Super local.
Yeah, like really specific areas.
Wow.
And then alert people who are at risk from the heat.
Oh, that's cool.
So using technology to help vulnerable people.
I like that.
And then there's the Janagraha Center in India.
Okay.
They're making a city data platform to like make government better.
Using AI.
Yeah, using AI. That's cool.
And then Kodakita in Indonesia is making AI models to deal with climate stress.
Climate stress.
Yeah, like all the problems from climate change. So all these
Yeah.
projects show how AI can make cities better,
Yeah.
more sustainable, more fair, and more resilient.
Yeah, resilient to like climate change and stuff.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's amazing to see how AI is being used to deal with these like real world problems.
Yes, for sure.
But speaking of dealing with problems,
Yeah.
would you believe that AI is even trying to do stand-up comedy?
Really stand-up comedy.
Yeah, like telling jokes.
Wow.
I know it sounds crazy,
It does.
but there's a study from USC,
Okay.
and they found that AI-generated jokes were actually rated as funnier than human jokes.
No way. Seriously.
I know, I was surprised too.
I got to hear some of these AI jokes.
Okay, so one of the things they had the AI do was come up with funny acronyms,
Okay.
and the prompt was like, a lesser talked about room in the White House.
A lesser talked about room in the White House.
Uh-huh.
And one AI came up with Lincoln Bedroom's Alien Conspiracy Corner.
Lincoln Bedroom's Alien Conspiracy Corner?
I know.
Okay, I admit that's kind of funny.
Right?
But like, how does an AI even understand humor? You know?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
But a researcher who worked on the study said that AI doesn't have feelings.
Right.
So it's mostly using pattern recognition to like copy what we find funny.
Oh, so it's not really understanding the joke?
Yeah, it's more like mimicking for now.
So it's more like mimicking than like true understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. But it does make you think, like, is this a sign that AI is getting more creative?
Right.
Or are we just getting better at programming it to copy what we think is funny?
That's a really good question.
It is.
And it kind of gets at how AI is blurring the lines between what we thought were like uniquely human abilities
Totally.
and what machines can do.
It's crazy to think about.
I know it is.
It feels like we've only scratched the surface of what AI can do.
Yeah, from disrupting whole industries to making us laugh.
It's wild.
But all those disruptions bring up some big questions,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
especially when it comes to the economy.
Right.
Like that MIT paper we talked about.
The one about the 1% GDP growth.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Well, it also talked about some potential like downsides of AI.
Oh, right. The downsides. What were some of those?
Well, we have to remember that AI is a tool, right?
True.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Asimoglu, the economist who wrote the paper,
Yeah.
He was saying that we need to be really careful about how we implement AI and what the consequences could be.
Okay, that makes sense.
And one of the things he was worried about was that AI could make existing inequalities even worse.
Oh, yeah, like how...
He specifically mentioned that women with lower levels of education might be hit harder than others.
Oh, wow, that's not good.
I know, it's a real concern.
Yeah, if we're not careful, AI could end up making the gap between the rich and the poor even bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to make sure that everyone benefits from AI and that there's help for people who might lose their jobs because of it.
Exactly, like safety nets and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it seems like a big part of that is making sure everyone has access to education and training.
Right, to adapt to the new job market.
Yeah, exactly. Lifelong learning and reskilling are going to be so important as AI becomes more common.
Absolutely.
It's going to be crucial for everyone to keep learning new skills.
For sure.
So beyond jobs, though, what are some other downsides we should be thinking about?
Well, one of the big ones is that AI could be used in ways that are like harmful or unethical.
Oh, right. Like how?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about AI being used for surveillance and facial recognition.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one.
It is, because we have to think about privacy.
Yeah.
And make sure these technologies aren't being used to discriminate against certain groups of people.
Exactly. We need to make sure AI respects human rights and promotes fairness and equality.
100%. And that's where regulations and policies come in.
Right. We need good rules for this stuff.
And speaking of regulations, that UK report we talked about earlier.
Right. The one about AI frugality and efficiency.
Yeah, that one, they were talking about how important it is to develop AI in a way that's sustainable.
Oh, right. Environmentally sustainable?
Yeah, because we don't want to create a technology that solves some problems but creates new ones in the process.
Yeah, that would be bad.
It's all about finding the right balance.
Balance between...
Like progress and responsibility.
Right. We need to be really thoughtful about how we develop and use AI.
Yeah, it's not enough to just focus on what AI can do.
Totally.
We also have to ask what it should do.
Exactly. Good point.
And that brings us back to, like, values.
Oh, yeah, values.
Like, what are the values that should guide AI development?
That's a big question.
It is.
What kind of future do we want to create with this technology?
I don't know, but it's a question we have to answer.
For sure.
One thing that really struck me in our sources was how different the reactions to DeepSeek were.
Oh, yeah, DeepSeek, the Chinese AI company.
Yeah,
right.
Like from all the different tech CEOs.
Yeah, they all had such different responses.
It was so interesting to see how some of them, like Sundar Pichai at Google, they kind of downplayed the whole thing.
Like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, and emphasize how good their own company is.
Right.
But then you have others like Mark Zuckerberg at Meta.
Okay.
Who seemed way more like open to learning from DeepSeek.
Interesting.
And especially their decision to make their models open source.
Right. That was a big deal.
I know. It's such a bold move.
It really shook things up.
Yeah, it's like it's forcing everyone in the industry to rethink how they do things.
Totally.
And adapt to this new reality.
It's like we're in the wild west of AI development right now.
Totally.
Anything could happen.
And that's kind of what makes it so exciting.
It is exciting.
It feels like we're watching a whole new technological era being born.
Right, and we're writing the rules as we go.
It's like the early days of the internet all over again.
Exactly.
Full of potential, but also a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty.
But just like the internet, AI has the power to be like incredibly transformative.
It does.
Connecting people, sharing knowledge, solving problems.
Yeah.
On a global scale.
But we can't forget that with great power comes great responsibility.
That's true.
We need to make sure that AI benefits everyone.
Right, not just a select few.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, these conversations are crucial.
We need to be open and honest about the good and the bad of AI.
For sure.
And about the values that should guide its development.
And what kind of future we want to build with it.
Exactly.
It's a big responsibility.
It is, but it's also a huge opportunity.
It is.
To use our collective intelligence and technology to create a better world.
I agree.
And that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. So as we continue this deep dive,
let's
keep that human element in mind.
The human element.
Yeah, let's explore how AI is changing our world, for better or worse. And let's think critically about how we want to shape its future. Yeah, it really feels like we're like at the start of something huge.
Huge? Like how?
Like a true AI revolution.
I think so too.
It's happening so fast.
Yeah, it does feel like a turning point, you know?
Ah.
Kind of like when the internet first became a thing.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
But what's cool about this deep dive into AI is that we're not just talking about like abstract ideas.
Yeah.
It's real stuff happening right now. You know?
Right, like those AI-generated jokes.
Oh, yeah, those were wild.
The one about Lincoln's alien conspiracy corner or whatever.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I still can't believe an AI came up with that.
It is kind of
It
mind-blowing.
makes you wonder, like, what can AI actually do?
Seriously, what are the limits?
Right, and as AI gets more powerful, it's raising all these, like, ethical and societal questions, too.
Totally. Like, we're in uncharted territory here.
We are.
Okay, so speaking of ethical and societal questions,
Yeah.
let's go back to the economic stuff for a sec.
Okay, the economic impact of AI.
Yeah, like that MIT paper we talked about?
Yeah. The one that predicted only 1% GDP growth.
Yeah, that one.
They also talked about some potential downsides.
Oh, yeah, the downsides. What were they again?
Well, it's important to remember that AI is a tool, right?
Right, like a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Yeah, for sure.
And Asimoglu, the economist,
Yeah.
he was saying that we need to be really careful about how we use AI.
Okay.
Careful how we use it.
Yeah, and what the consequences might be.
Right, like unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
And one of the things he was worried about was AI making inequality worse.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Like, he specifically said that women with less education might be hit harder than others.
Oh, wow. That's not good.
I know, it's a serious concern.
It is. We don't want AI to widen the gap between the rich and the poor.
Exactly. We need to make sure everyone benefits.
And that there's support for people who might lose their jobs.
Yeah, like safety nets and stuff.
Right, exactly.
It seems like a big part of that is making sure everyone has access to education and training. Totally, like to adapt to the new job market.
Yeah, because the jobs are going to change.
Oh, they're definitely going to change.
So we need to help people learn new skills.
Lifelong learning is going to be key.
Absolutely.
Okay. But beyond jobs, what other downsides should we be thinking about?
Well, one big one is AI being used in harmful or unethical ways.
Uh-huh. Like,
Well, there's been a lot of talk about AI for surveillance and facial recognition.
oh yeah, that stuff is kind of scary.
It is. We need to think about privacy.
Yeah, for sure.
And make sure these technologies aren't used to discriminate.
Right, like we can't let AI be used against certain groups of people.
Exactly.
We need to make sure AI is used ethically, you know?
For sure.
Like respecting human rights.
And promoting fairness and equality.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
And that's where regulations and policies are so important.
Yeah, we need rules for this stuff.
Speaking of regulations,
Oh, yeah.
that UK report we talked about.
The one about sustainable AI.
Yeah. AI frugality and efficiency.
Right. That's a really important concept.
It is.
We have to make sure AI development doesn't hurt the environment.
Yeah, I don't want to solve one problem and create a new one.
Exactly. Got to find that balance.
Between,
Progress and responsibility.
yeah, finding that balance is key.
We need to be smart about how we develop and use AI.
It's not enough to just focus on what it can do.
Right.
We have to ask what it should do.
That's a really good point.
And that brings us back to the question of values.
Values. Okay.
Like, what values should guide AI development?
That's a tough one.
It is, what kind of future do we want to build with this technology?
I don't know the answer to that.
It's a question we all need to think about.
For sure.
One thing that really stood out to me in our sources was how different everyone's reactions to DeepSeek were.
Oh, yeah. DeepSeek, that Chinese company.
Yeah, like all the different tech CEOs had such different takes.
They did. It was interesting to see.
Like Sundar Pichai at Google, he kind of downplayed it.
Acted like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, but then Mark Zuckerberg at Meta seemed more open to learning from them.
He seemed kind of intrigued by it all.
And especially their decision to make their models open source.
Right. That was a big move.
It really shook things up.
Forced everyone to adapt.
Yeah, like we're in the wild west of AI development right now.
Totally. Anything could happen.
It's kind of like the early days of the internet.
Yeah, full of potential, but also a lot of uncertainty.
But just like the internet, AI has the power to be like super transformative.
Transformative. How?
Like connecting people, sharing knowledge, solving problems.
Oh, yeah. On a global scale.
But we can't forget about responsibility.
Responsibility.
With
Yeah.
great power comes great responsibility.
We got to make sure AI benefits everyone.
Not just a select few.
Exactly.
And that's why these conversations are so important.
I agree. We need to talk about this stuff.
Be open and honest about the good and the bad.
For sure.
And figure out what values should guide AI development.
And what kind of future we want to build.
Right. Because it's a huge opportunity
That is.
to use AI to create a better world.
Yeah. A world that works for everyone.
So as we keep going with this deep dive,
Okay.
let's keep that human element in
A
mind.
human element, okay.
Let's look at how AI is changing the world
Good and bad.
and think critically about how we want to shape its future.
Sounds good to me.
Wow, it's crazy to think about everything we've covered in this deep dive.
I know, right?
From like the super technical details of building AI to
Yeah.
how it could change our cities, our economy, even our sense of humor.
It really shows how AI is like everywhere now.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
not just some sci-fi concept anymore.
Right. It's part of our lives.
And that's why it's so important to talk about it.
Yeah, these conversations are crucial.
The more we understand AI,
Yeah.
the better we can deal with all these changes and create a future that works for everyone.
Absolutely. We need to be shaping this technology.
Speaking of shaping the future,
Yeah.
let's go back to DeepSeek for a minute.
Oh, that Chinese company that shook things up.
Yeah, the one with that crazy efficient AI model.
R1.
R1.
It's been so interesting to see how the big tech companies are reacting.
Right, some of them are acting like it's no big deal.
Like Google.
Yeah, Sundar Pichai was basically like, our Gemini model can do that too.
So he's downplaying the threat.
Yeah, but then you have Mark Zuckerberg at Meta.
Right.
He seemed way more interested in DeepSeek's approach.
Especially the open source thing.
Yeah, making their models open source was a huge move.
It really changed the game.
It's like they're forcing all the other companies to rethink their whole strategy.
It's like the wild west of AI right now.
Totally anything could happen.
We're watching a whole new era of technology being born.
It kind of feels like the early days of the internet,
Yeah, full of potential, but also a lot of unknowns.
but just like the internet, AI has the power to change everything.
Connect people, share knowledge, solve problems.
Yeah, on a global scale.
It's exciting, but also a little scary.
It is, because we have to remember that with great power comes great responsibility.
We can't let this power fall into the wrong hands.
We need to make sure AI is used for good,
For the benefit of all humanity.
not just a select few.
Exactly.
And that's why these conversations are so crucial.
We need to talk about the ethics of AI,
The potential risks.
the values that should guide its development.
Yeah. And what kind of future we want to create with this technology.
There's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's exciting too.
It is. There's so much potential.
So what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Good question.
Like, what should they be paying attention to as AI keeps evolving?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Like, keep learning about AI.
Yeah, read articles, listen to podcasts.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
There are no easy answers with this stuff.
It's a constantly evolving field.
You need to be curious and open to new ideas.
And think about how AI could affect your own life and work,
Yeah. How could it change your job?
how you interact with the world.
How you think about the future.
And most importantly, remember that you have a voice in this conversation.
You can help shape the future of AI.
It's not something that's happening to us.
It's something we're creating together.
Through the choices we make
Actions we take.
and the conversations we have.
That's a really powerful thought.
It is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it's been insightful and thought-provoking.
And maybe even a little inspiring.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep shaping the future.
The future is in our hands.